let's take the step back and help people understand the difference between palliative care and hospice care.
Yeah, great. So I sort of think of it as like palliative medicine is the big umbrella. Palliative care is the big umbrella. And hospice care is sort of like the very end or the sort of backside of the umbrella. Palliative care is a medical specialty usually provided by a team for folks with a serious illness. Serious illness can be defined lots of ways and is defined differently in different health systems, kind of depending on how they're staffed and how their palliative care programs are kind of created to function, what purposes they're serving. But some of the, and BJ, you jump in at any points, but some of the big differences is that with palliative care, generally, there's no limitation around any disease-directed or modifying therapies you might be pursuing. And you don't have to be dying inherently or even clear that you're facing death. You could be diagnosed with a very serious cancer that actually has pretty robust treatments and you could live for quite a long time.
Meaning many, many years.
Many years.
So in that situation, what is the objective of the palliative care team?
Mm-hmm. To think really holistically about who is this person? Where are they in their lives? How do they make sense of what's going on? What do they understand about their illness? Who's supporting them? All really grounded in this, are there ways that we can help this person feel sort of as well as possible? To treat the symptoms related to serious illness, to treat the symptoms related to the treatments of different serious illnesses, but in the context of a whole life, which means, you could have, on a clinic day, you could be seeing two people that seem on paper generally the same, right? Similar age, demographic backgrounds, diagnoses, and be dealing with really different things when you walk in the room. What would you add?
I mean, no matter how you slice it, the goal is the focus is quality of life.
Yep.
Period. Whether it's palliative care or hospice. And by the way, for both Bridget, so it's inherently interdisciplinary, as Bridget was saying. That's why Bridget's a social worker and I'm a medical doctor, but we work with chaplains, nurses, music thanatologists, potentially art therapists, volunteers. It's when the subject matter is suffering and quality of life, there's no one discipline that has a lock on that stuff. So, but whether it's palliative care or hospice, the focus is really on helping someone feel as well as possible. And that is an inherently holistic question, because it gets at their identity, it gets at their physiology.
As well as possible as defined by them.
Yeah.
Right. And so for someone, that could mean very aggressive pain management. And for someone else, they could have a different relationship to the experience of pain. And they wouldn't put that at the top of the priority list. They might put more concrete or relational kind of supports, higher up on their list. So the beauty of our jobs and our work is to meet this person in this moment in time and identify what's up for them, what's most important, and sort of where it is that we get to meet them to work towards quality of life as defined by them.
So what is the transition then for an individual from being under the broad umbrella of palliative care into a more narrow defined level of care as hospice?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's some idea, there's some like world of ideals in that, and then there's what actually happens. And the reality in this country is that folks are admitted to hospice very, very late. The length of stay on a hospice program in this country is something like a 3-week average. And so it's actually quite little bit of time. And when I think about when hospice is a good fit for folks, I think about wanting to stay out of the hospital, being in a place where they are ready to or being forced to grapple with the reality that there is not anything left to do to change what is happening in their body, to change the cancer, to delay the neurologic illness. And or folks that are more explicitly ready to be supported in their end of life care or in their transition.
And just done with chasing the treatment, done with chemo.
Yeah.
Maybe that chemo might have something more to offer them in terms of lifespan, but they are just electing to be done with that. So whether chemo and other things have run their course and there's nothing left to try, which is often the case,
or they feel done with what's left to try,
they're telling us that they don't want to try anything else. Either way, they would be much more likely to be hospice ready.
Now, you're saying the average length of stay in hospice, and really there are, as I'm aware of it, and so correct me if this is not correct, there seem to be three paths to hospice. There's hospice in your home, where you go back to your home and a hospice team comes there and cares for you in your home.
Yeah.
There is a palliative care ward inside a physical hospital that provides hospice care, but it's still within a hospital. And then there are outpatient hospice facilities, dedicated facilities for hospice that are not hospitals. Would those three encompass the how hospice care is delivered, or is there another one?
Sort of, in terms of sites of care.
Okay.
This is where it starts to get really wonky. It's complicated. And you can shut us up, Peter. There's so many tributaries. But to kind of back up a little bit, it may be orienting for the audience here. So as Bridget's totally correct, palliative care is the larger umbrella. Hospice is this sort of subset of palliative care devoted to the final months of life. So to be real clear, same philosophy in a lot of ways, but by insurance and reimbursement lines and by policy designation, you can get palliative care alongside curative intended care. You cannot do so in hospice. When you go on to hospice, you have to give up that curative intended care.
And not just that, I mean, you can't have an IV line, right?
Generally speaking.
Yeah.
Generally speaking. So the way it's set up is a crossroads. We'll make the point that dying and living look a lot alike, but in the man-made world of policy and healthcare structure, there are some important forks in the road. So one of them, to go on to hospice, is you no longer have access to or don't want curative intended care and things that go with it. And also someone somewhere has to certify that should nature run its course, you likely have 6 months or less to live. So those are the two forks in the road to qualify for hospice. Palliative care, neither of those applies for palliative care. So that's a really important distinction. So I'm trying to and one other point to make there is, while palliative care is the larger umbrella, hospice is the older one. So we started in this country with hospice. And since 1982, when Medicare got in the business, we had those restrictions. And then people in the 80s and 90s realized, why are we waiting till the final weeks and months of life to deliver this kind of loving care? And so the palliative care was born as a younger, bigger sibling to get outside of those restrictions. So it's a wonky history.
Well, what's interesting is you just said that hospice care was the original.
Yeah.
And
the model.
It was 6 months of life expectancy. And today we're at a point where median or mean is 3 weeks in hospice.
Yeah.
Well, if that's true, and we think about what we know about what an individual looks like when they have 3 weeks left of life, this is usually a person who's already in delirium, already in the early stages of organ failure. This is a person who probably is already spending more than 50% of their time sleeping. And what I guess I'm hearing you say, or maybe I'm imputing, is should they have moved into hospice sooner? Have they been unnecessarily discomforted by pursuing therapeutic intent until that 3 week mark on average?
Brid, you want to jump in there?
No, you go first. Yeah.
I would say, as in broad strokes, unequivocally, in general, the answer is yes. I think we know that patients and families wait too long. They're suffering more than they need to and taking on treatments that are no longer helping them for a longer period of time. That there's what can feel like a charade portion of care. And there's a lot of reasons, like the patients and families not wanting to look at that piece of the puzzle yet. Denial is a thing, and also referring physicians perhaps is the bigger reason that they are not seeing the writing on the wall or don't want to or whatever else. So it's very often that the physicians don't bring up hospice until way late in the game. So for many reasons, I think it is a generally true statement that we wait too long to invoke hospice. We wait too long based on our own stated goals of feeling at peace and having some comfort towards the end and not wasting our time doing things that don't help us.
I'm Peter Attia. This podcast relies exclusively on premium subscribers for support, which allows us to provide all our content without taking a single penny from advertisers. I believe this keeps my content honest, making it a trusted resource for listeners like you. As a premium member, you'll get immediate access to our entire back catalog of AMA episodes and all future AMA episodes. You'll get longevity-focused premium articles packed with actionable insights. You'll get unrivaled show notes for each and every episode of The Drive, every topic, every study, every resource from each episode carefully curated for you. You'll get quarterly podcast summaries where you'll learn my biggest personal takeaways from the previous 90 days of expert guest episodes and much more. This journey doesn't have to be navigated alone. We can take these steps towards a better, longer life together. Become a premium member today at peterattiamd.com/subscribe to join me in a shared commitment to a healthier future.